Thank you all very, very much, and most importantly, thank you, Chair Bakari Jackson, President Greg Hale, and Nancy, thank you very much for the special invitation. I would like each of you to know that you really have a very, very visionary, but also a student and community-centered leadership here at Broward College. That's, I think, a leader among the college systems. I'll tell you in a moment why I'm so proud of that, but Broward Up is just one such example of that, of trying to make sure that the work of the college not only helps give degrees, not only helps people get good jobs, but also really impacts the community and makes it better, healthier, safer, and more economically prosperous for all. And I think that's a great, great vision that we should have for all of our college throughout the state of Florida. So it's great to come back home. As some of you know, I hate to admit, Madam Chair, how long ago I graduated from Broward College. I am a 1976 graduate. My wife is also a graduate. I'm a lifetime member. I'm also a distinguished alum. I'd like to say that I was a distinguished alum in 1991 before, fortunately, you had sufficient standards. So now you have really good standards to bada boom. I later graduated from Florida National University, then FSU, and FSU again. What is Florida Taxpayers? Very quickly, it's the eyes and ears of the taxpayers. What does that mean? It's a 501c3 scientific research institute, scientific. So it's not only based on good evidence of science, but the principles of which the founding leaders of our country formed our constitutional democratic republic. And we've been very true to that very nonpartisan role because we don't really focus on who's in charge, who's in power. We focus on what has to be done for the people of Florida. And so our goal is really more truth to power, looking at, for many other organizations, it's appropriate for them. Their source of authority and power is access to power. And that's important. That serves the groups that they're serving. Ours is looking at the legitimacy. Are you doing the right thing? If you're in the Senate, in the House, are you appropriating the funds well? Are you making sure you're investing? Because sometimes if you don't invest, you're not going to get the kind of return that you really need to help a vibrant economy and sustain it. So we've looked at both sides. So it's not only on how you tax. We've had a very fortunate, very good impact because we work with a lot of other organizations. We don't lobby. We don't get to political campaigns. But our volunteer leadership is some of the most distinguished in the state. Our chairman is Pat Neal, former state senator. Our chair-elect is someone very familiar to many of you, a great leader here in this community, and not only our state, but our nation, Senator George Lemieux. He's our chairman-elect, and will be taking over, I think, in November, December of this year. Some other very distinguished members. But the group was founded from two very respected, different times, but one was the Senate President, Phil Lewis, a Democrat, and his roommate was the Senate Minority Leader, Republican, Ken Plant. They were the key founders, and I had the very blessed fortune of working beneath them. They were very, very committed to good public service, and I think that's what we really try to emulate and do. So for us, all of it is, looking at what's good for the taxpayers, not just immediately, but long term. What's the ROI? And there's never a final destination. It's constantly a journey. No matter how good you are, we look, how can we be better? But we do focus on when you make improvements. So we have a productivity awards program to recognize the best, most effective and cost-effective and efficient state employees who are often unsung heroes. We'll find out people that may deal with this coronavirus and how they dealt with it and minimize the impacts, if not help resolve some impacts in Florida, as we've done with anthrax and some other things in years past. But most importantly, we also have a great principal leadership program, which with the vision of your foundation, we'll be working together to bring our program of TaxWatch Principal Leaders Program. We recognize the three best elementary, middle, and high school principals empirically, the only evidence-based program, and working with to see how this can be integrated best into what you're doing here at the college. So getting on to looking at the ROI. We're very concerned about it. We're very pleased to see that. I've listed on some here, rather go further about who we are. I just want you to look at what people have said about us, men and women who you trust, Republicans, Democrats alike. It's in this annual report. There's just a few copies. I'll leave it around. It's in the middle. From Lawton Childs, Bob Graham, Rick Scott, Jeb Bush, CFOs Atwater, Sink, and Jimmy Petronas. Most importantly, we were very pleased because we did a project a little more than a year ago on the college system and the impact. And since I'm a graduate, I knew how important it was. I've gone to both systems. I've seen how responsive the college system is. What an incredible bargain the taxpayers and the students get. I remember paying much lower price than tuition, but back in the day. But it has been tremendous. It has lifted a lot of out. And even though I probably could have gone right to a university, I was accepted. It was better. It was better for me, my family, and others, and my children have gone as well. So with that in mind, we looked at it, and hopefully this will help continue to get the kind of investments that are really important. We will stick with that for many years. But with that in mind, President Hale said, why don't you do this similar kind of study, a little shorter, but for Broward College? I thought, why not? It makes perfect sense. So we may try to do this with other colleges. With that in mind, fortunately, I told him, it's going to be what the evidence says. I mean, as much as I'm a fan and a big believer in it, I've got to do nothing but tell the truth. We do a project called, some know it, the Turkey Watch. Just to let you know how either crazy or what integrity we have. My sitting chairman had a $10 million appropriation that got on the Turkey Watch list and stayed there because I said it met the criteria. I wish it hadn't, but I wish you'd called us early. We tell you how to avoid it. But the point being, we are simply going to tell the truth, but also tell the truth from the perspective of making things better. So we hope that this project is not only going to tell the constituents, the students, the faculty, the supporters, the board, the community at large, of how good and wonderful, but also how it can become an even better and even more impactful institution. Without further regard.
Yep. Thank you very much. I'm Robert Weissert, Executive Vice President of Florida TaxWatch. It's an honor to be here to tell you about the report that we have provided to all of you. Let me first again reiterate thanks to President Greg Hale, a great partner for Florida TaxWatch, a great leader at this institution, and thank you for your service to the taxpayers of Florida. Also to all of you in the room as board members and other roles here with Broward College, thank you all for your service to the taxpayers of Florida. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. DeSantis, who was mentioned earlier on faculty here, and she was a great help in our work as we put this independent report together. And also, I am representing a couple of my colleagues who helped put this report together, who really did the work, one of whom is Dr. Rick Harper, who is a well-known economist in the state of Florida, former chief economist for the Florida Senate, so well-respected in legislative circles and among policymakers. He was also formerly at the University of West Florida. So he is a great colleague of ours, and we were proud to have him on here. And then I'll just say personally thank you to the student representative, Ms. Noel. You did a great job, and thank you for your service to your fellow students. And I certainly wish you all the best in your career, wish you success going forward. And I hope, like many other Florida college graduates, that you do stay in Florida and that your great success is achieved here. Dominic mentioned this report. This is a report we did almost a year ago today, or released almost a year ago today. It took significant time to put together, about the state's return on investment for investing in the Florida college system, which shows great return on investment for the taxpayers as a whole and for the state's economy, as well as for the individual students. This report, which you have here today, is the report on Broward College. We look at the regional economic impact in this report. And I'm going to go through a few slides here to touch on just some of the things that we did. I certainly won't try to bore you right before reception with a bunch of information, but fortunately my President Calabro already spoke about Florida TaxWatch, so I can skip into the introduction here, which is, we mentioned the 70,000 jobs in the video. That's 70,000 jobs basically through attrition that we estimate over the next 10 years in this region, about another 8,000 net new jobs. And these are jobs that will be filled by especially AASs, but ASs and the BSs as well that Broward College provides. So especially the two-year degrees, but all the degrees of Broward College and generally the FCS system provide a low-cost, high-quality programs to help meet those job needs, which are especially significant in this community. Methodologically, I don't want to belabor this too much, but we looked at all the best data for this. The NCES, the IPEDS, which is the National Education System for higher education data, as well as FETPIP, which is the Florida Education information. We also used the Florida Economic Security Report and ran this all through economic modeling software, IMPLAN, to come up with what we'll show as the regional impacts. And again, all of this is in the report that we provide here. One point about Broward College specifically, which is student body, which is majority minority with almost 36% Hispanic and over 30% African American, which is important to our state's diverse economic future. Specifically to tuition, and this is looking at other institutions in the region here, in the Tri-County region, the 3 counties of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. Broward College is the second lowest in tuition, in fact, almost equal to the lowest, and it is significantly lower than the SUS institutions, about 60% lower. And some of those numbers, as far as student costs, can range as high as $30,000 at other institutions. So that's more than 10 times what it would cost at Broward College. And the average, the median of those paid in the Tri-County is over $13,000, and that's compared to under $3,000 at Broward College. So there is a significant value for the students in the education that they're receiving as far as the economics of it, and that's also reflected in the student debt data. One of the things I want to show here is the second bullet point there, that compared to the 2 other FCS institutions, Broward has a larger percentage of undergraduates receiving student loans, but smaller average loan amounts. So generally, the population that is being served at Broward College is, from an economic standpoint, very positive. As far as the degrees, more than 40% of all degrees, 40% of all certificates earned in the Tri-County area were here from Broward College, about 30% of the associate's degrees, and only about 2% of the bachelor's degrees in the region are from Broward College, but that does tie into what else we know, which is 80% of Broward College undergrads with bachelor's degrees do find employment, and the average salary for that employment was almost $54,000. So also, it is certainly worth noting the top bullet there, Broward College ranks first among the 14 institutions in the Tri-County region for bachelor's degree in terms of percentage of employment. So even though that's the smallest by far portion of the degrees and certificates earned at Broward College, those earners do well. But the big points are what we found in the economic impact. So this is both to the region and to the individual students. So the average Broward College graduate, essentially, is earning nearly $50,000. And that's compared to a typical high school wage earner of only about $38,000. So it's about 30% higher across all of the different degrees and certificates that you can earn at Broward College, and that's weighted for the fact that the AAS and certificates are significantly more students than the BSs and the BASs. So taking the weighted average there, it's almost $50,000 or 30% higher than the high school only. This is generally for the FCS, again, referring to the report that we did last year, where the bachelor's completers are about 21% higher than the state university system. And again, that does relate largely to the types of bachelor's degrees that are earned. So overall, there is great value, not just economic output, but value for the students and for the taxpayers who invest in the students' completion and degree achievement. The increased economic activity, it kind of falls into 2 different categories. One is sort of the direct spending of Broward College, and one is the direct benefit to the students, and then the increased economic activity that they create after graduation or completion in the case of certificate completers. And so the way we look at that is the operational expenditures, again, the money directly spent by the college itself, including the capital outlays, and then the students and the money that they spend in the community. And we do take out of that the money that they would spend anyway. So certain things like rent and transportation expenditures aren't included. We're talking about money that they spend because they are here in the community because of Broward College. But then, in parentheses, most importantly, guess I wouldn't forget to say it, the increased earnings from Broward College compared to their peers. So overall, from a fiscal standpoint, this sums up to about $240 million. And that's from the federal, state, and local taxes generated by all of those economic activities, which are, again, in those major 2 groups. And here is the specific breakdown of those. So Again, college operations is the top line of that graph, and that accounts for about 1/3 of the total economic output in the region. And then the PV is present value of increased earnings. So that's what the students both get personally and give back to the region because of their matriculation and completion here at Broward College. And those numbers are quite frankly astounding. It's about $1.2 billion in increased regional economic activity because of the present value increased earnings of the students. That's per year. And present value means that we're not projecting that out into the future and taking account for real dollars and taking account for inflation. That's the actual present value. The money today is essentially $1.2 billion. For them personally, about 1/3 of that, a little under $400 million, is increased personal income, and about another $700 million is increased to the local economic GDP because of both their higher wages, but also because of the higher productivity that they're able to provide for the regional GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. It's a measure of the total economic output of a region. So the fact that they are college completers means they have higher value, essentially, in the GDP. They produce more value for the region, and that's to a number over $700 million. So again, the key number of that is that $1.2 billion. So that's the increase in marginal increase per year because of the increased present value of the students or who are graduate completers because of their involvement in Broward College. This gets down into the actual return on investment for that. So when you look at what a graduate coming in can expect to generate from their investment of both money and time in Broward College, it's more than $6.50. That's $6.50 to 1. 6.5 times their investment they're going to earn back. The highest is in the association, the AAS is the highest ratio at almost 13.5, AS at 5.5, and bachelor's at 5.6. And so that includes the lifetime earning, but accounts for both the costs that they make today, or that they pay today, but also the opportunity costs of going to college instead of working during those years. So when you take all that into account, you still see a significantly high return on investment for the students themselves, for all of your colleagues, which is great. And again, that's on top of the extraordinary return on investment for the region in increased economic output and for the state in increased fiscal tax revenue. So overall, Broward, this region, the Tri-County region, continues to grow. There continues to be a great opportunity, more than 77,000 jobs in the next 10 years. Again, that's 7,000 net new, 70,000 for replacement employees for currently existing positions. So Broward College is specifically well positioned to benefit from that growth, both being highly competitive with other institutions in the Tri-County region, but also being a benefit of the population here and the regional economy here in this community, which look positive over the next 10 years. Also, I think probably most importantly from a state perspective, the legislature generates a very good return on investment for the money invested in Broward College. And again, that's in addition to what the students benefit and the region benefits. So I know that's a lot of information. I did try to go through it quickly, but there is this wonderful, easy to read, very dense, statistic-heavy 24-page report. But we did work very hard to make it readable and approachable. It's got nice-looking graphs and tables. So I do really encourage you to read it. I hope we have enough copies for everyone. But if you don't, like all of Florida TaxWatch's report, you can find it at www.floridataxwatch.org. And let me thank Chair Jackson for the time here. Thank all of you again for your service, and I'd be honored to answer any questions about the report or our findings.
Chair, I just want to tell you again, we will be available not only during the reception, but afterwards. I've told Nancy and I'll tell President Greg Hale that we'll be happy to share this information with the larger community, with Broward Workshop. I know President Hale's a member of the Broward Workshop. We're very active partners with them, the Broward Alliance and other groups here. in Broward County and other groups as well. So we stand ready to share that information because we don't want you to put this light under a bushel. You got a lot of great things to do, to say, and most importantly, I think with Broward Up, you're going to really expand this to a wider community and impact the overall health and prosperity for years to come. Thank you.
We all talk about the impact that Broward College has in the community, but when you can actually quantify it in terms of dollars and show people, not only are we doing good things and the right things for our citizens here in Broward County by helping them achieve more in life, but now you can actually quantify it in terms of dollars, it's fabulous.
I mean, I think honestly, I don't want to berate them, but sometimes people often ask us to do a study or whatever, and we try to make sure it's independently funded, so we avoid the bad optics there. But secondly, we'll tell them, you can't control the study. You cannot control the findings of fact, the conclusions, and recommendations. It can't be done. Our own executive committee board, I didn't get into that, but it's one of the most unique organizations. They cannot control. Obviously, we wouldn't have our chairman's project on that list. That gets vetoed on average 70% of the time. Fortunately, his did not, but there were others on different board members that were. So the point is, we're going to be held to a very high standard, and so others are going to try to, we always assume, poke holes on it, and like anything else. So whenever we say it, we stand behind it for, forever actually, but for a very long time until the data changes and all that stuff. So I think it's very risky, again, a visionary. But it's a good time, especially for a president just coming in, to kind of size it up. But it's a lot of wonderful things that your presidents, and I see the president, I sort of actually was here with the first, with you Adams, not the first, but you Adams, and Will Holcomb and David. You all had really wonderful presidents and great leadership to develop through it, and great volunteer leadership in the community. And it's evidence itself, that's the key. It's evidence itself. We didn't just pick out the good things. We looked at all. There's the for improvement as identified. So we stand behind it. Most importantly, I think this is something I think most colleges should do and use because I think it can only be a good selling point, but more importantly, help a point to improve and be even greater service. So the thing I always find out is that the more effective, efficient leaders are those who constantly find out how they can be better. So it's a congratulations to the intellectual honesty and the dedication of being better. But Madam Chair, you can all be very, very proud of. So here's a lot of people.
On behalf of myself and also our family, we get a lot of. I've had the pleasure of working with the staff here on the foundation board level, but doing this gala and kind of implementing some of the vision of our family, both with the foundation staff as well as the faculty, has been absolutely tremendous. It's been an honor for us to get to work with them. They have rolled up their sleeves and stepped up, and they go above and beyond. So from our family, I just want to say thank you to Nancy and to the staff and Marie and her team, and obviously President Hale. It's been a lot of fun, and we look forward to continuing.